Thanks for being patient with me. Let's see, I'm still in here. Okay, so what, am I in there, Eric?
You're not a very good picture. There you go.
That's better?
That's better.
Okay, cool. All right, so the content of our meetup today is about confidence. And I want to start off with a little story about that. For years, I've been working on developing my confidence. And, anyway, that's why they have video editing software. Anyway, for years I've been working on developing my own confidence, and I really thought like I had it all figured out, like I had my confidence down. Like I'm like, okay, yeah, I know how to be confident, and like I know how to do this. And anyway, because I would just always feel insecure whenever I would do stuff. And when I was in graduate school for clinical psychology, I had a therapist who. Each of us were told to go to therapy so that we could work through our own issues, so we don't bring it in and pollute the therapy that we're trying to do with other people with our own issues. So anyway, I said to my therapist, I really need to work on my confidence. And I did work with him on that. And then years and years later, I'm like, yeah, I finally have this thing figured out. So this is actually last year. I'm at this workshop, the one that I mentioned to you all earlier. And we had to go around the room and ask people, how do you see me limiting myself? And so each person would just give feedback. So each person was like, well, you know, you do most things right, but you can stand to be a little more confident. Every single one in the room kept saying, you need to be more confident, you need to be more confident. So I was like, after all these years of working on this, here I still have this, but now it's actually a blind spot. Like I don't even feel like I'm not confident, but like other people are telling me this. So it's like been a preoccupation of mine, for a while. So in sharing that with you, it's partly because it's something that I'm still growing in. So I don't purport that I'm the expert in confidence or anything like that. But I can say that I've probably done more reading on it and studying about the topic than a lot of people because of the fact that I've gotten this kind of feedback. So I'm kind of coming to you here with the level that I'm at on it and just share what I can in my experience, what's been helpful, what I've learned from this journey. So I want to start with the discussion of REBT and CBT to give you a little foundation on what those types of therapies are for those of you who are new to it. And then we'll have a little exercise and come back and process that. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about what REBT and CBT actually say about confidence. And then the things that get in the way of confidence and some of the byproducts if we go ahead and work on our confidence and methodologies to get there. So to start off, first of all, what is REBT and what is CBT? So REBT stands for Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy, and it was therapy that was founded by Albert Ellis in 1955. And he was talking about basically how it is what we say to ourselves, what are our belief systems, that determine a lot for us. It determines how we feel emotionally, how we show up behaviorally, and also how we feel in our bodies, what happens to us physically. That all of those are tied into what we think. And of course, it's not that the thought process always has to come first. We can wake up and be feeling a certain way, but at some point it's a chicken and egg thing, and we've got to kind of stop that somewhere and take a look somewhere. And when we look at thoughts, that's one of the easiest places to intervene. It's one of the easiest places to understand how we create our experience. So another type of therapy that came shortly after Ellis's was this therapy called cognitive therapy that was formed by Aaron Beck in the 1960s. And it was very, very similar to REBT, but it just had some slightly different terminology and some different philosophical aspects to it. And so one of the things that people often say they practice these days, if you talk to psychologists, they'll say, I do CBT. So CBT is kind of a general term for any therapy that is focusing in on thought processes and behaviors and emotions. Okay, so it's any therapy that really is focusing on thought as one of your main vehicles for change. It also does focus in on behavior too, but that thinking that thought is tied with emotion. So Ellis came up with this model called the ABC theory of emotion. It's a very easy to remember way of processing your experience and understanding how you create different experiences for yourself. In the ABC model, each letter, it's very alphabetical obviously, and each letter stands for something. So the A stands for adversity or activating event. B is for the belief, it's this thought process, the things that you tell yourself. And C are the consequences, which can be emotional, behavioral, or physical. Then after you identify what all of those are, then we have the DEF part of things, which is what takes place in a therapy room usually. So D stands for disputation. Those are the scientific, philosophical kind of questions that we ask ourselves to help us really delve into whether our thinking is useful to us, whether our thinking has validity, whether it even makes sense, whether it's even logical. Once we have done this with a thought, if a thought is not passing that test, if it's not logical, it's not based on reality, and it's also not useful to us, we might decide that we don't really want to keep thinking it. And at that point, though, we want to have a replacement that makes more sense. And that's the E, that's the effective new philosophy. When we have that new way of looking at things, we're going to feel differently, we're going to act differently, and we're also going to feel differently within our bodies. So hopefully more relaxed and calmer. And what we're striving to achieve is not just positive thinking, but realistic thinking. So we're not trying to just lie to ourselves, but to actually put our thinking to the test. Sometimes in therapy we might have an experiment on the belief. So if we think that, like for example, I thought I was confident, and I found out that even though I felt a certain way inside, that others weren't perceiving that on the outside. So in that case, if that were an experiment, like if I thought, well, other people see me as confident, I would have found out from my experiment that other people don't. So then we got feedback, and then I could think about that and whether I wanted to make some changes on that. So then with REBT and CBT, we can also do that in our own lives on any belief that we have a question about. We can go and test it. Or we can ask questions about it and just do some thinking about our belief. In the modern day, there's a person by the name of Byron Katie, and have any of you all heard of her?
Yeah.
Yeah, thework.com. Her work's really nice and good stuff. She, I don't know that she would call herself a cognitive therapist or not. I know that at one point on her site, she had a lot of testimonials from cognitive therapists. She's an individual who's gone through her own journey and her own struggles, and her disputation, so to speak, is a process called inquiry, where she takes her beliefs and she puts them through 4 questions. And so there's some similarities between the REBT methods and the work.
Her name is
Byron Katie, Katie, and her stuff for some people that's an easier to digest method, so I bring it up because for some people that they really like that method a lot, or they use it in tandem with REBT. And so sometimes I'll use that, sometimes I'll use REBT or some of Aaron Beck's methods, just depending upon what somebody needs. So what I'll do is I'll pause the video, and I'm going to do an exercise with you, and it's about basically how we limit ourselves. So what we'll need to do is have groups of 2 or 3 people, and what I'd like you to do is we're going to do this kind of like a ping pong game, okay? And you're going to say, I would like to, and then you put the word blank, but I limit myself by thinking blank, or by telling myself blank. So an example would be, you could say something like, I would like to go mountain hiking with my son, but I limit myself by telling myself I'm not in good enough shape, okay? So just to start looking at what we tell ourselves and how it might be limiting to us, just to take a glance at that as an exercise, okay? So what we can do is if you could just actually pair up, for those of you who are in groups of 2, you can pair up with, I would say actually the person next to you, but I don't want to make it that comfortable for you guys and you guys who came together. I'd like you all to be able to meet other people in the group too. So how about we'll do this? If you guys are a group of 3, and then you pair, no, that's not going to work. You switch chairs, and then you pair. Okay, would that be good? And so you're going to say, I would like to, fill in the blank, but I limit myself by telling myself, and then fill in the blank again. So the sentence is over here under the word confidence, and it has exercise. And we want to go, you want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to say their thing 10 times. Okay, so keep track of you're not just going to stop after you limit yourself once. You're going to go through 10 different times you've limited yourself. Keep track on your fingers, okay?
10 different
Yeah.
experiences. With
And it could be any-
thoughts.
Any little thing you stop yourself from doing. Could be just the most simple thing or the bigger thing. Like, I would like to write a book, but I limit myself by telling myself it'd be too much work. Make sense? Do you have any questions on how to do that?
I can hear myself saying I'm going to hear myself repeating, why I limit myself.
Okay, so that's...
is there some kind of outcome with that?
well, we're just going to do the exercise, and then we'll go through processing it, okay, Mary? So do you understand how to do the exercise?
Mhm.
Okay, you'll see the learning when we get
Okay.
through it, okay? Let me go ahead and pause this.